Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the south-afrifur podcast. You're speaking to myself, Ivic Wolf. Why are you speaking to me? I've got no idea why, but
We're
you will.
listening to you. We're listening.
Yeah,
We
you're
can't hear
listening.
you, but thank you for speaking.
Yes, you're speaking to us in whatever. Anyway, that was Tempo, and then on the other hand, there's also Scratch from Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're listening to the South Africa podcast for the second time because for some reason I'm a little bit confused. But yeah, so obviously Potter was unable to join us this evening, not for lack of trying.
People
on
don't
Twitter.
actually realize this, but tempo actually stands for temporary replacement roux.
That explains a lot then.
That's a fair assessment. Of the
He's slightly taller than me, so I'm not like a full-size spare.
And you only have the pink T-shirt. He has the pink hair.
I know. That's all I can do. I had pink hair in high school, but I don't anymore.
What a risque high school you went to.
my band instructor found out about it beforehand, and he was like, because we were talking about it, and he comes up and he's like, don't do that before the concert. He's like, you can do it anytime after, because I was right in the front row. But yeah,
Wow.
that was, yeah, no, he was a good guy. He was just kind of old-fashioned, so, but no, yeah, so we're here, we're live. Hello, furries.
Yeah, I actually barked at Rue 31 times. I counted now.
Yeah, and he's not.
There was roundabout. Yeah, it was 20-minute sort of spaced in between. We tried phoning him. I tried phoning him just now. I think he's knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's all good, whatever.
Yeah.
These
Right.
things happen when you deal with furries.
Yeah. No, it's very, very chill. We were actually considering not having a podcast this evening, and then I get FOMO.
FOMO?
Yeah.
Is that like FOMO with foam?
It could be FOMP, so fear of missing podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not so much FOMO if you're the one, actually hosting the thing.
But no FOMO.
No FOMO.
Yeah, no FOMO, no homo either, apparently. Something.
So,
Anyway, so Tempo.
Yes.
What can you tell us firstly? Like, how's your day been for starters?
My day hasn't been going on for very long because it's the weekend and I've slept in until about 3 hours ago. But I have been, working. I'm working on my new story for Heat.
Yeah.
And that one is it's a science fiction story where it's furries, of course, and but the main character is not a telepath, but like she can read emotion, so she's like an empath. And like her being in like a serious relationship for the first time, and also it's the jazz age for some reason.
Nice.
And so we'll just blame that on furries. We'll be like, well, in a furry world, for complicated reasons dealing with like how muzzles would interact with like trumpet mouthpieces, the jazz age took a lot longer to happen.
Did they have a workaround?
I don't know. I think that it just took more design steps to figure it out.
But we got there.
If you guys can, if you guys can tell me a workaround, I'll be happy to include it.
A nose cone.
There you go. Has like little weird lips on the ends.
Yeah.
For avians, they basically have to put like gummy bears in there, like little gummy worms, make a proper seal.
Oh man, I think I've seen risque pictures by Nikogami with that.
That's the thing that's popping into my head right now. Thank you for giving away my
find them
joke.
so put them in the stream.
Yeah, thanks
I
for
need to see a
giving away.
picture of this. Like I've never seen a picture of this before. Somebody please.
Is it just dark? Oh no, it's Nikogami with a 0 for some reason. Isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's not. What? Why can't I find it?
Isn't it Deco Dash Gami?
Is it? Oh no, I found it. I'm on the trail. I'm sniffing out adventure.
On a scale, how risque is this picture?
Blowjob.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10.
That's risque
blowjob.
enough, I'm sure. Out of 1 to 10, blowjob, what, like 7?
No, I don't know.
Uh,
Depends. Are we talking
Like,
are we talking the Catholic scale or like the furry scale?
well, I mean, the furry scale, that would be like a 2.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
4
here you go.
tops.
I'm
Right,
assuming.
you don't even know what a 10 is. Like,
Yeah,
I don't even know what a 10 is.
you're like,
All right, here we go.
Well, that's a definite good question to ask the audience later when we're doing a little bit of a music stream. What is a 10?
yeah,
Oh
I don't
no,
want to know. Please just keep that information to yourself. Everyone has a
here.
different 10, and I do not want to find what it is.
There you go.
That is actually very, very nicely done.
Those 2 pictures.
Moving on.
Yeah,
Yukogami knows his stuff.
he does.
So anyway, but yeah, so I'm working on that. I have my classes are starting. I'm going to be teaching creative writing again, and let's see. My fiance has convinced me to start our D&D game back up.
Oh,
So
there
I'll
you
do that
Yeah.
every couple weekends. Let's see. It's actually like for people who are into furry and or want to write. I think that D&D is actually a pretty solid way to practice those things. Like, not just practice being furry, but like if you have an excuse to go and talk about furry things, and have furry characters and explore the implications of how things would work in a furry setting and all that.
All right. Now, you were speaking, oddly enough, sort of speaking about characters and characteristics of certain, different types of furries, and obviously your girlfriend's an otter,
Mm-hmm.
and involving like leaving strange things in strange places.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, and I wanted to say, like, first of all, that like furry has been like one of the best things for my relationship, because when you are not when you're in a relationship and you're not like contextualizing it as furry, you can be like, oh man, it really annoys me that such and such thing is happening. Why can't the person just do what I would do? But then if you're like, well, oh, but they're an otter, or they're dragon, or whatever, then you can be like, oh well, I can't be that upset. And plus you have the like, advantage of like, oh well, that's cute. It's cute that one happened with an otter. An otter left dishes out. Oh no, that's you couldn't. Oh, and like an otter didn't want to do the dishes because you get on the soap all over, pull the oils off. No. Okay, and so that's with that as our lead-in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was the context in which this conversation happened, because like, I forget how it started. Like, just when I entered the kitchen, it is, and if I have like, even if I have like just cleaned it and I leave and I turn around to go and grab a glass of water, it will already be destroyed again. And so, this is just an otter thing I have interpreted it like as. It's just like, because if you think about how like some animals would cook things, like a German Shepherd would probably be very like, oh okay, well I'm going to measure things, or whatever, and get it all set up, and maybe a collie would make sure everything's very organized before they cook, whereas other creatures might be less so. And so like instead of being irritated that the kitchen is then messy, I'm like, well, but I'm struck with this vision of like an otter with a mixing bowl, like just throwing pawfuls of things in there, and throwing, like, mixing wildly as batter flies everywhere, and like,
It's like smashing
just things like that.
Counter.
Right, just cracking eggs open on rocks and throwing them in, and
Not caring if the lid on the blender is on or not, just
right,
turning it up.
Drinking half of the wine that is supposed to go into the sauce, and things like that. And so just general otter behavior.
I kind of feel like drinking the cooking sherry is sort of standard practice by now for everyone, unfortunately. At least the people I know.
Look, the thing is,
I
you only
don't
need.
drink it because it has salt in it. When you get cooking wine here,
Wow.
it's
You only need a cup.
well, yeah, but it's when you get cooking wine here, it has a small amount of salt in it to keep it from going bad. Because
Okay.
if you open up wine and you leave it, it'll just turn to vinegar.
Yeah, becomes gross.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, what would huskies do when they cook?
A lot of
Hopefully
cold
they
stuff.
would probably brush themselves first, I suppose,
Yeah.
and everything.
Just like to keep hair from getting into their food, they just wear one of those like Breaking Bad yellow jumpsuits.
Right? Yeah, those
Make it look like
environmental
the
suits.
chemicals. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds about
Yeah,
right.
I think that's what would happen. I think actually when I write about uh, furries cooking things, I tend to like blaze past a lot of problems that would be inherent in that system. Like you probably have to wear a lot of like gloves. You know, like even at home, you probably want to be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like wear some uh, rubber gloves or plastic gloves or something, just so I'm not getting all these juices. Especially if you're working with something that would stain your beautiful white fur as a husky. I think you'd want to wear gloves. But
Yeah.
you know, because like the thing, like we furries kind of like, oh, being a human sucks. Why would I want to be a human? Well, it's actually fairly easy to like clean stuff off of yourself when you're not cleaning it out of fur.
Oh yes.
Like anyone who has had a pet that has like light colored fur, it is actually fairly hard to get things out of fur.
Yeah.
And then let's see. So yeah, like I think there would also be more of a tendency to hold things in your mouth when you're a dog. Like
Uh-huh.
just because dogs carry things in their mouths all the time.
Yeah.
And that brings us to like an interesting thing about furries. It's like, well, where do you draw a distinction between behaviors that an anthro dog would certainly do, like having a better sense of smell, and behaving differently because of that, like versus things that dogs do because they don't have hands, or things that dogs do because they are not anthro. So like, do your anthro dogs wear collars? Well, sure, they can, but if you do, that has a little bit of a different connotation than like a dog wearing a collar. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a four-legged dog wearing a collar. Like that's a little different. And so, like when you're writing furry fiction, you kind of have to like balance those. Like, if I put in my new Windfall book, at one point Kylie finds that Max, who is a husky, like she like shows him a bunch of her porn that she looks at, and she's like, and they wear these like, harnesses, and they pull things, and well, isn't that all what all huskies are into? And he's like, oh, I'm actually not really that into that. like I'm not actually. It's very it's often very cold, and it's outside, and I don't know. It just seems like a bad place to be, doing sexy things. I'd rather just do them in bed. I don't need to work. I don't. Right. And so that's the sort of thing I'm really talking about. It's like, but anyway, so I recommend that you all in relationships, like not even just in like romantic ones, but in like all of them, like stop and be like, if you find yourself getting irritated with a person, just think of their persona and be like, okay, well, what is their persona really doing? If they're like a cat and they are kind of grumpy when you come and bother them, well, that's just kind of cats. That's how cats work. Don't be so mad. It'll make you a more tolerant person being in the furry fandom.
That makes sense. What the hell are you guys sniggering about? Care to share with the class?
Hey, just give me a second.
Oh my god.
Is it at least about something that we're talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
I'm just I let my imagination run wild a bit.
What? Share with the class.
No, it's just the thought of all of that happening, like just everything that you were talking about. Just like confused looks everywhere. I don't know. They kind of tickle my fancy when people look slightly confused about things. And I'm not going to be able to actually like say this properly because it's just my brain going like 100 miles per hour.
Okay.
And for some reason, I found the entire situation to be slightly funny. Like,
It
you know,
is. Well,
interspecies
and that's right, and that's why I think of it that way when I'm like frustrated with something. Like, well, okay, like at work, the head of my department is like he's very laid back until something happens, and then he's like, oh, wow, let's do things. So I always think of him as like a German Shepherd because he's just like, oh wow, things are happening now. Things are happening. Okay, well, let's go do things. And then the rest of the time he's just chill. He's like, oh, okay, no, it's fine. We're just doing our thing. Let's all just do our thing. We're fine. And it's, it helps me not become frustrated with that person.
It helps to contextualize people's reactions and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Furry as a coping mechanism.
Very coping
that's actually
mechanisms.
like that'd be something that I might try to do during the music stream a bit later. Try to coax people's like random reactions out.
Oh, I thought you meant just put up with people by envisioning that they were furries.
Well, yeah, that too. I just know that for some reason I would just definitely have a wooden spoon in my mouth the entire time.
While cooking. Because
Yeah.
like all the flavors of the sauce are trapped in the wood over years. Or nom nom nom.
Well, I mean, by some point, like especially if it's mince. Oh God. Okay, no.
So another thing is I've been trying to come up with products that don't exist in our world but would exist in a furry world. And I had this idea this week when I was cleaning out a peanut butter jar of dogs having a sports drink that's just peanut butter water.
Yeah.
Like water, but it's just peanut butter floating in there.
Oh
Because
boy.
like a dog would just be like, wow, this is the best. Because it's like savory and kind of gross and like sweet and like, because like peanut butter by itself, like I've grown up eating peanut butter, and so it's just like, oh, yeah, peanut butter. But like peanut butter plus water is always just like the grossest thing. Like, because it's about the same. Like, I don't know how common it is in South Africa, but it's for like, can you just get it wherever?
Yeah.
Or is it like a?
Yeah, you can get peanut butter. Yeah.
Yeah, no, peanut butter you can get
water.
anywhere.
No, but peanut butter water doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Peanut butter water is a native thing. And so, like, I had this vision of, like, a dog just being, like, just run, like, 2 miles, and he's like, okay, I'm going to crack open this peanut butter water, just slams it, and it's all full of, like, lumps. And it's just like, oh, that was the best. It replaced all my electrolytes. And everyone else is just, oh, bro, oh, you got a little bit of it on your face, and oh, why? Why would you drink that?
This just reminds me of, like, that one scene in Austin Powers.
Which one?
Yeah, well, the one where he drinks coffee but doesn't drink coffee.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
because that's technically what the consistency would be like.
It depends too on how much peanut butter to water the ratio is. Like if you have very little peanut butter, because I was envisioning it as like a tablespoon of peanut butter in like a bottle of water.
Oh, you know what's even better than that? I don't. You forget the water. Milk.
Oh no.
Milk.
Right, because you run a whole bunch and then you just want to drink some milk right then.
Yeah, well, why not? Well, why the hell would you want to drink peanut butter?
I don't know, because you're a dog. You're a dog in this scenario.
Like, if you're a dog, then milk is definitely one of the better things. I know that my dog loved milk, for instance. And I mean, like, milk and peanut butter together, just like if you heat the milk up, and then you, like, let the peanut butter actually sort of... I've done this with coffee, by the way. I've put, like, a spoonful of peanut butter in my coffee. It is absolutely bloody amazing. I will have it every single day.
Wait,
Yes!
Is this creamy peanut butter or chunky peanut butter?
Creamy.
No, creamy.
Oh.
We're not savages.
You really have to try this. You have to try this. It is absolutely amazing.
So coffee plus peanut butter. Okay.
Well, I mean, you guys have had, like, freaking pumpkin spice lattes that just...
I don't actually know where to find those in town.
Don't you guys have
Starbucks? I mean, I'm sure we have a Starbucks. It's in our Barnes and Noble, but I don't know. It must just be like so mundane of a thing now that I don't even see it.
I think it's only seasonal. Like every time I hear it, it's always in the context of it's becoming like it's almost Halloween. It's becoming autumn.
Well,
True.
there we go. Pumpkin spice lattes.
Yeah.
Keep an eye open.
Oh, peanut butter milkshakes are the best though.
Yeah. Well,
Aw.
see, milk, peanut butter. Come on.
I
Yeah.
admit that I do like peanut butter ice cream a lot. It's very good.
Hmm.
Rocky Road.
See, I like. Okay, Rocky Road has inconsistent results for me because sometimes like the marshmallows are little and crunchy, and sometimes they're just kind of a goo.
What kind
And
of Rocky Road do you eat?
No,
Mm,
Rocky
I've
Road
never
has
had
marshmallows in it.
my- What? Mind blown. Now I love it.
You didn't know these things?
No, I didn't know these things. Bacon.
there's bacon in it.
Oh,
No.
I wish.
But it would be awesome if they had bacon.
So now we're
Yeah,
just
maybe-
throwing things in there, like
Yeah.
No. But I mean, like, if not in the milkshake, but the thing is that, like, imagine a like a bacon flavored ice cream for dogs.
Or just like
I'm sure that we could find that. I'm sure that's an actual thing that already exists
Yeah,
thanks
make-
to the internet.
make an ice cream with Canadian bacon and maple syrup, but didn't call it Hockey Road.
Oh.
Scratch.
Oh. Yeah, I'm
Scratch
envisioning
is gonna
like
kill you.
cold round discs of ham in my mouth, and that's a 10. That's the most explicit.
That's where the 10 lies for Tempo.
Huh.
That's where the 10 is. My mouth is just full of cold round discs of Canadian bacon and ice cream, like, and it's just they're crammed into my muzzle. That's what that is. That's a 10. That's the most explicit thing. It's so far removed from sex that it is the ultimate taboo.
It is the literal. It is the embodiment of a fetish.
Right, like clearly it is so far removed from sex that it is, the purest form of perversion.
The tabooist of
Orgasms?
taboos.
Which is and it's not right, and it's almost not a food. Like it's because like who would ever be like, man, I'm really hungry. I want to try some of this. I'm gonna make some of this.
Oh
But-
wait, hold on.
What?
Why is this on the stream?
Why is one on the stream?
It's not my fault. I clicked on a link that somebody put onto first stream.
What?
Saying, yeah. No, I'm not gonna look at it. I don't want to look at it anymore. I'm done.
Is it a bad?
Okay.
So anyway,
It's bacon. Bacon is better. Let's continue talking about bacon.
yes. So we were talking before the stream started when we were sorting out our hardware that Logitech products. So like I actually enjoy Logitech products. I've had good luck with Logitech products. However, I've had to accept that occasionally you need to just fill them with glue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that they should just do that at the factory because for example, I have a Logitech mouse like that has worked for like 12 years or 15 years and it's just fine, like it just works. But like or my headset, like this headset has worked for like at least 5 years. That's backup one that I'm using. But the USB connector eventually broke open. I like stepped on it or whatever, and it just broke. And then or like I would drop my laptop off of the arm of the couch onto the couch, and it would bend it up at a weird angle. And so eventually I just took. Do you guys have Gorilla Glue? Do you know what that is?
If you can describe it, I could probably
Glue?
give something that's roughly similar.
It's okay. So it's a glue that when it dries, it foams.
Oh, stuff like that. Yeah, I think I know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever the local brand is of that. Like I took it. I took the USB connector and I just filled it with that, and then I just clamped it back together, and it was perfect. And now it's like way stronger than it ever was.
Yeah, because shit
And
doesn't
then
wobble anymore.
Right. And then like same deal with my headset, the new bigger headset that eventually died on me. That was just the battery dying. Like I can't really because that one was like, when did I get that? That was like 3 or 4 years ago, and so that was eventually batteries just die in wireless things.
Mhm.
But like that one, because of my gigantic head, it can't actually like sit comfortably on my head. Like it's always straining the plastic slightly. And so I just it was starting to crack, so I unscrewed it, and filled it with glue, and then I screwed it back together, and then it was perfect, and it works perfectly, and it has really, I'm sure, confused. Like, I had to send it in one time for something else, and Logitech, I'm sure, was very confused as to why it was full of glue, but it works. It's great, and so like that's kind of my opinion on them. Like, their plastic isn't the best, but if you just are willing to spend, like, put in like 50 cents worth of glue into all their products, they become excellent. Like, so I think if Logitech, if you're listening, you should just do that at the factory.
Just cut out the middleman. Do that yourself.
Right, because you don't like. Companies don't like it when you hack their products anyway, so you might as well fill them with. They might as well fill them with glue.
I mean, like, at the end of the day, they'll be able to like sell it at 50% like more expensive because it's indestructible now.
Right. Yeah.
Huh.
But anyway, I was also reading about how, when like fertilizer and other like things that actually promote algae growth go into, like, they get flushed out to sea and like you get an algae bloom.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. I was reading about how the main defense against that in the in North America, one of the main defenses against that is sea otters, because the sea otters eat the crabs that eat all the slugs that eat all the algae.
Ah.
So if you have enough sea otters, they'll eat enough of the crabs that many more of the slugs will survive to eat the algae.
That's a very smart, like, sort of natural solution to a problem. Just like screw with the food chain a little bit, and then you have yourself a solution.
Well, I mean, do you remember that the last time they introduced a population into a place that the population didn't need to be there, the dodos died.
Yeah,
well, no, these are otters that were. These otters are naturally occurring. Like, these are otters that were already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that you guys should go and get otters to put in your water, like peanut butter.
Yeah. It's just
Otter water.
What would that taste like?
It's from outer space.
From outer space. No, yeah, you open it and they're all just some otters swimming around. And you're like, oh, look at you.
Mini otters.
Yeah. And so, or you pour it out, I guess it could turn into otters. I don't know.
Just add air.
Someone was telling me how, like, a friend of mine was saying, like, someone had called and they were talking about a dog they wanted to adopt, and he's like, no, it's a corgi mix. And I'm like, yeah, you have to add water. I shouted.
Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, corgis always seem like very, very British to me. So maybe just add G&T
or tea, or just
gin and
tea.
Tonic,
right, to hydrate them,
or just tea. Yeah.
Shame.
I say, old chap.
Right. Corgis are funny. The friends of mine we're playing D&D with have a corgi who is our little D&D mascot. She comes over and hangs out, and she doesn't really bark. She just, like, goes around making, like, clucking noises like a chicken. And so, yeah, she's just always like just going around. Oh, okay, the living room, into the kitchen, wherever. I'm like, oh, okay. So.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, corgis are very cute. Like, unlike a lot of other dog breeds that are weird shapes, corgis have been that shape so long that and we're working dogs for long enough that they're actually relatively healthy. Like,
unlike stuff
I don't
like
know if you guys are. Yeah, like, that's just mean to breed a dog that, like, doesn't work properly anymore.
Or pugs.
Like, pugs,
Can we just collectively, I hate saying it as crassly as this, but can we just collectively kill off pugs?
Or just, like, sterilize them.
Yeah. Like, I know everyone's gonna be like, oh, these pugs are so cute. No, they're not. Like, the reason why pugs and, like, pit bulls sound the way they sound is because they have freaking breathing problems.
Yes, they're literally dying the time that they're, like, the moment they're born.
Well, everyone is, if you think about it, but I mean...
No, but I mean, like, they're literally...
Oh, like life. We just became very, like, artistic in this street. Ah, yes, but we're all dying, aren't we? And we all took a drag on our cigarettes.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, well,
was.
I'm dragging on my cigarettes, but yeah. No, but then again, like, I mean, like, I guess it's like the, Berkeley philosophy department. We're all technically dying. We must make more money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to have not a firm, it's just like a reminder of your own mortality every now and then. Otherwise, you just, you end up with people like Donald Trump.
Oh, Donald Trump.
Oh, Donald.
I would like to apologize to the Earth for my country right now. Like, I know that I end up apologizing a lot for my country's behavior,
Yeah.
but like,
More,
I mean,
more of an indication that you're a Canadian, actually.
I know. No, and like, it's just the Canadian radiation from across the border. I live in North Dakota, so I'm right there.
Radiation spelled with an EH. Radiation.
Right, there you go.
Hey, right.
But like,
Well done, Scratch. Well done.
yes.
Sorry, anyway, you were saying apologies?
That's how you get Canadian superheroes, is with radiation. And so, no, it's just, like, don't. It's stupid. As I have said, don't worry. This person is not representative of the majority of Americans. This is just what old white rich people want, and like, it's, at least I'm talking to South Africa, which is relatively diverse and knows how stupid old white rich people can be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, like, because it's not even like every old white rich person, and it's not even not all of them are rich. Just some of them are just old at heart,
Mm-hmm.
and it's old people of all ages are supporting Donald Trump, and it's just stupid, and it's not going to go anywhere. Like, if you look, like, the polls nationally can be close, but it doesn't matter, because even though I normally am not a fan of how our electoral process works, it means that he has to win states that he can't possibly win.
Mm-hmm.
To win, like, he is very unlikely to win, because he would have to win states he has deeply offended in this process, and he's spending all his time campaigning
Like New Mexico.
in states, right? Campaigning in, like, first of all, he shoots off to Mexico to have a photo op with the Mexican president, who also no one likes. And according to my Mexican furry contacts, they're like, yeah, no, he's kind of got his own scandals and problems, and no one really likes him. And then Trump comes back and he campaigns in states that he couldn't possibly lose or he couldn't possibly win. So he's basically wasting his time. But
Yeah.
it makes a lot more sense in the context of Donald Trump is doing this for, brand reasons. Like, he wants more brand recognition, and he wants to have more media deals in the future, or make his own, TV network or something stupid. Like, those are the sorts of things that you do if you're trying to get a bunch of attention.
Yep.
Also, I don't think he was ever hugged as a child, and so I think that he's just desperate for attention.
Well, I mean, the best hug that he was given was a small loan of $1 million.
Yeah, obviously. I wish I could get hugs like that. I mean, not that I judge the hugs that the furries are, give me at conventions. Like, those are nice, but they don't end up like, and they don't end with them handing me $1 million.
Yeah.
And I would like it if they would.
Of course.
But anyway, so
Interestingly enough, sorry, I actually heard a press conference that he did recently, and he almost sounded semi-presidential for once. It was the most amazing thing.
Isn't it sad how low the bar has gotten? Where we're like, oh man, he almost sounded like a reasonable person for a few minutes. And
yeah,
you didn't reference his,
the rest. He didn't talk about his junk or anything for like 10 minutes, and then he went away.
And he didn't say anything racist.
Right.
He must have had a teleprompter.
Right. Like, when you're a kid, and like there's you're behaving yourself, and you have a reputation for behaving yourself, but like your younger brother or sister is just kind of a brat, and they get when they have a good day at school, and no one has their teacher hasn't called home to tell about all the terrible things they did at school that day. Oh no, they were fine today. Oh wow, let's go out for ice cream. Whereas you're great all the time, like you're great every day. like you're fine, and you don't get recognition for it. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Doge actually, speaking about little brothers, told me about his brother at one point who was annoying him to no end. That his mom and his dad were out, and he tied his brother to the tree, like, and left him there for how many hours? For 5 hours.
Wow.
And his mom comes back and sees, his brother like tied to the tree, and she like immediately walks up at the Doge, and she's like, "The hell happened?" And Doge just very calmly says, "Well, he was annoying me, and this is how he annoyed me." And she's like, "Okay, good, leave him there."
Okay. Best mom.
It was half an hour extra, but yeah, still apparently.
So yeah. Anyway, the other furry things I'm working on, I just finished with a reprint of the Nordgard card game, and so I've been mailing those out. I've been working with the studio that's going to release it as a video game. That's their plan. And I actually, when I was at AC, ran into Tracy Butler, who is the illustrator, or the writer and illustrator of Lackadaisy. If you guys remember.
Oh.
And she was super busy because she was the guest of honor at AC this year, but I managed to corner her anyway as we were packing up. Like, that's one of the benefits of being a dealer in the dealer's den, is you can just go, okay, well, I'll wait until the dealer's den is closed, and then I'll go talk to someone else in the dealer's den we need to talk to.
Yeah.
Or you can do it before it opens, or whatever. And so the whole 4 days of the convention, I was like kind of lurking, waiting for her to be at her table so I could talk to her. And so, but I was at the same time, like, as soon as the doors opened, I had to be at the sofa table selling my books. And so, I finally got caught up with her the last day as we were packing up, and Blotch was, or Kenken anyway, half of Blotch was actually at the table when I got there, and the three of us got to talking about the Nordgard game, and how a Lackadaisy expansion to that would make sense. And she was quite interested, and so we've been working on that. And the idea is that you can play the game independently, like you can play it as like a crazy rum running Lackadaisy game, because it's all about cat smuggling booze in the U.S. in the 30s.
In the Prohibition era, yeah.
Yes, and so then you can take it with your Nordgard set, which is like a Balto the card game, and you can then shuffle them together, and they become one giant game.
Where you become a rum running what?
Balto.
Snow dog.
Yes. And
I can see this happening. I can just imagine like sled dogs with rum.
Right. That's instead of
medicine.
that vaccine or whatever it was that they wanted in Balto. What was it? It was for some outbreak of a disease.
It was an outbreak of diphtheria.
Was it a serum?
No, it was diphtheria. Was it pneumonia?
Right.
Okay.
And so then they had to run the faintly glowing radioactive. It was, again, Canadian radiation made it glow in that movie.
Yeah.
But the serum, and had to run it down to that place, and that.
It was Nanana and
Nome.
Nome. It's between Nanana and Nome.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
And so, but that's why. Except it's just like that, except it's booze and there are Tommy guns and.
Well, I mean, at least with booze, you don't let an entire like village of Athabascans die in Alaska. Specifically because that's exactly what happened. Because everybody got pneumonia, including a small village of like Athabascans, I think around about 3,000, around about maybe 20 kilometers away from Nome, Alaska. So they got the serum all the way there, and so everybody was like saved in that area, and then like the Athabascans, who are obviously the native Alaskans, all died of pneumonia that year. Practically all of them.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, like living in North Dakota right now, I actually feel compelled to talk about the native thing that's going on right here,
Mhm.
where you get I don't know if you guys, if word has gotten that far, the pipeline that they're protesting that's being put in here,
the key.
Dakota Access Pipeline.
That's something that
It's
like
not actually the Keystone. The Keystone got tanked because there was such significant protests against it. Um, I have actually like a relatively moderate opinion by my standards, because I'm a pinko commie liberal, um, about pipelines, because like I recognize the need for oil transportation infrastructure, and having old infrastructure only, like there is existing infrastructure for transporting oil, is not always great, because then those pipelines leak and they contaminate the environment. And so if you're going to have oil pipelines, it's good to have new and good ones.
hmm
But um, so the Keystone Pipeline looks pretty much dead. Like there was no one of the main problems with it was that it wasn't going to actually be processed in the United States. Like it wasn't going to be on the market here, and so it was really just a way to let the Koch brothers sell off oil that they had bought up in Canada onto the international market, because Canada wouldn't let them do it, because they hate them, and rightly so.
Yeah. Well.
And yet even the Koch brothers hate Trump and won't pay his pay donations to his campaign. Um,
But
and so it's
like,
always nice when people you don't like hate each other.
yes,
yeah.
it is.
But you were
But
saying
even so, I mean, like they paid money to the next best guy who was technically worse than Trump.
who? The Gary Johnson?
Ted Cruz.
Oh, Ted Cruz. Oh, Ted Cruz. He's yes. Don't worry about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has won like one election in his entire life.
And is that the
Ted
one where he got a senator seat?
Yeah, like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz only won that seat because it was the there's a process called gerrymandering wherein you change electoral districts to be a shape that is conducive to
Oh
you.
right, yeah.
And it is a perverse gamification of politics in this country, because it basically turns it into like but that's what you do, and oh man, look at all the points we scored. I'm like, no, that's actually terrible, because you should be representing your people, and now you're just like trying to play this bizarre game of how you can get the most electoral points. And so anyway, North Dakota doesn't have those. We don't have enough people, so it's impossible to actually gerrymander us, because we only have one district. But
North Dakota.
North Dakota, like yeah, we have like 10 people. So and currently several of those people are out protesting this pipeline that they wanted to put in. There had been an approval process like a year or two ago, and the tribes didn't make a ton of noise about about the pipeline's route. And so there was no particular strong objection at that point. But then once it started being built, they realized that it was going over like water tables for their reservation. And so if it leaked, even though it wasn't on the reservation, the chemicals in the oil would go into their drinking water and such and so forth, and their hunting and fishing grounds and all that. And so they've been protesting. And the reaction of the the conservatives who are currently in power in the state government has been stupid. It's just been absolutely stupid. They keep sending like way too like if they will, because these Native Americans are just there on horseback in traditional garb, standing in front of machines that are supposed to be putting in place all this pipeline. And so the guys who are running the machines are like, well, we can't do anything. There are all these Indians here. And then so the state government has decided that the best thing to do is to send lots and lots of police to go in and try to intimidate them. And like they've been doing stupid things like flying drones over them, and like demanding that they all show identification, and just like kind of harassment. And then recently they brought like dogs out to try to intimidate them, and like because they hired some security contractor from out of state to bring in dogs to bark at them and whatever, and it bit one of the horses, and it's a thing now. And like it's just a mess, and it's embarrassing because like history lesson. The U.S. has not been very nice to its natives in the
No.
long term. I know, like
Never happened. Come on.
I know, like a colonizer. This was the one time that a colonizer was just not nice to indigenous people, and so that is part of the reason when people go, oh, but why are they upset? Well, because they don't trust us. They're mad. Like there's
They mad.
they're mad. They're angry. And so anyway,
Yeah.
but a friend of mine is Native American, and they have all these terrible jokes like, we trusted the white man once. Now we have reservations. And I'm like, oh snap,
Wow.
Why?
oh snap. I know, and right.
Oh,
And I'm always
shit,
like,
son.
don't worry, Sean. Like, my people weren't here when your people were being like actively oppressed. Like, none of my ancestors had arrived. My ancestors have only been in this country for like 75 years. But anyway, but yeah, like at the same time, like even if it's not something that my ancestors did, it's something that like as a U.S. citizen, I do benefit from. Like we benefit from having totally taken all their land, like, and not, giving them like an equal part, like an equal trade for it or anything. Like in most cases, they just were chased off their land.
Or, given beads for New York.
Well, yeah, and that one's a little weird. Like my fiance is an archaeologist, and so she's like, there were instances where people would come and like trade beads and be like, we'll give you these beads and we get this land, and they didn't. Some of the tribes didn't really have a very strong concept of ownership, and so they were like, oh, you want to. So they basically interpreted that as like, you want this, so you want to hunt here. Okay, well you can hunt here in exchange for those beads. That seems reasonable. But then they're like, oh, but you can't be here now, and they're like, what the hell? That's not something that was in their cultural vocabulary.
Yeah.
And other tribes though were totally savvy and knew they had concepts of ownership. Like they knew what to do and how to trade things. Some of them had like democratic societies, like the Iroquois Confederacy was one of the design of that was partly lifted to make the U.S. government. Like they copied the Native Americans. Whatever.
Yeah, like there was an extra credit series that recently finished that whole like a two-part series on that, and like Hiawatha and the coalition of what's it, the like I don't know what it was called exactly, but it was basically just like a movement of peace between a bunch of the tribes near the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
In an attempt to drive out the white man.
Oh.
Yeah, and like there have been various like attempts throughout the years to like form a more cohesive strategy like between them. But one of the problems with that is that like Europe has trouble with that, and Europe is roughly about as homogenous as the Native American tribes are. Like if you talk to like even just in my state, like the Mandan Hidatsa who live where I am are totally laid back. Like they're just like if you talk to people like about like, oh yeah, like our culture's this, we like traded and we fished and that was our deal, and and then like you talk to like the Sioux who are from where I went to college, and not like the Sioux now are like actively raiding anyone, but like back in the day, all their neighbors hated them. They just hated like all the other tribes hated them so much because they were just jerks. Like they were always like stealing each other's stuff just to show how cool they were, and like stealing each other's horses, and like it was always just an ongoing thing. And so like a lot of them still have old grudges and don't have a very uniform way of like approaching this, and so that's why there are so many different like treaties and things with the different tribes, because they approached it different ways. Like some of them, the white people showed up and they were like, hey, let's make a deal. Like or like in the Southwest where like the land was somewhat inhospitable because it's a desert, and the natives had giant fortresses on plateaus. They were just and the army couldn't do anything. They're like, oh, we'll just sign a treaty with you. It'll be relatively equal. And so, like, yeah. Anyway, it's complicated.
One of the things that I was actually talking, or at least I tell my students about this, and I mean, like, given our current sort of like student ratios at our sort of schools, I kind of talk about the entire idea of the age of oppression and the way that language changed because of it, and sort of like all the colonialism and everything like that. Now, I don't necessarily have my facts straight on this because it said it somewhere in the book that I teach out of, is that I keep forgetting where the hell it was. But I mean, before colonialization in America, the different amounts of I think Native American languages was in the hundreds, if I'm not mistaken.
Though I would have trouble speaking to how exactly that works, and often that depends on how you break them up. Like,
but I mean, like culture. If we had to go for culture to culture, there were at least over 100 different types of like Indian cultures within or Native American.
like if you looked at like a pre-colonization map of where various tribes were, it's as like intricate as like Europe.
Yeah.
Like we always think of Europe as every culture in Europe, every country in Europe as being very distinct. Well, those were as culturally distinct from one another as those guys are.
Because I mean, Europe had like with Proto-Indo-European, like the stem-offs from that was around about 144 different languages and dialects. And so what I was trying to get through to my students is the fact that like before colonialization, there was like at least over 100 different sort of like languages and things like that within there, because that's kind of how societies work. And then afterwards, like it declined to like 22.
As far as actively spoken ones, they're it's pretty uncommon to run into Native Americans who know their ancestral language. And the thing is too, like many pre-colonization Native Americans were very polylingual. Like they knew tons of each other's languages, and then and they also there was a lot of overlap between their languages too. Like a lot of them were dialects of the same root languages, and so like it's kind of like people knowing Spanish and Portuguese. Like it's not as hard as learning for them to learn Portuguese as it would be for them to learn like Russian.
Because but I mean, even then, Russian did in fact have like, and that's that entire thing. I think there was a person who started talking about like historical linguistics way back in the 1800s. Died at the age of 48, and before he died, he knew 58 different languages.
Damn, son.
Yeah. Well, and it's because he started like actively looking at the similarities between the languages instead of the differences between them, and like he created this entire if not really a flow chart, but you could call it a Venn diagram of sorts, of how all the languages actually intermingled with one another. Where Italian,
I've seen ones like that. They're like trees of languages.
Yeah, there's the tree form, which is the family tree form, and then there's this flow chart form, where the two of them look like, one of them just sort of says like, oh no, language just kind of Proto-Indo-European happened, and then all of these other languages happen like that, and you're kind of sitting there going like, no, that's not necessarily how it is. So they changed up the entire thing and created this massive like intertwined thing. And then there's proto-languages from New Guinea, for instance, the Papuan.
Proto-Indo-European is what they speak in the Shire.
Yeah, pretty much. And like it's
related
actually very
to Bilbo-Indo-European.
I'm when?
Proto-Indo-European?
It could be Proto-Indo-European. Like the Shire.
You nerds. I'm trying to follow along, and I have no idea where you guys are coming from because I know next to nothing about languages.
He's saying that there were lots of languages.
I get that.
I picked one from one sort of mother language, which is Proto-Indo-European.
Yeah, I can pick that up at least, but like Proto-Indo-European sounds super.
There were although you guys do know at least one word from a Native American language. Algonquin. If you guys know the word, if you guys know the word raccoon, that is from Algonquin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Well, I mean,
it means like what was it? It was Arakunim is it means one who rubs, scrubs, and scratches with its hands.
Yeah. Huh.
And so, like, since raccoons like are always like doing stuff with their little hands, that's what that means.
That's adorable.
There's an interesting like sort of thing directly like sort of linked to that. It's one of the like things that I always tell my students, and I was sort of told about it by Doge. There's a specific buck. What is it called? Yeah. Its scientific name. In its scientific name, the Nyala is. Oh my goodness! The jackals are calling. We literally have like jackals like just outside here, and they're like off in a reserve just off, but they sit at the gate and just yowl. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, we have coyotes. They fill the same ecological niche.
Yeah, but the thing is that
drive dogs crazy.
What had happened is that there was a person like some sort of biologist had come down here and had tried to document like all of the different species and things like that. And now the Nyala, pretty much he had a guide with him, and he sort of pointed at this buck and sort of like said like, "What's that?" And the guide looked at it and went, "Angazi." And so this guy thought, well, that's probably the name of this buck. And instead he realized, or he never realized this, but he logged it down and named it Angazi, not knowing that Angazi means I don't know.
That's great. That's like Nome, Alaska.
Yeah.
Do you know the story of Nome, Alaska, and why it's named that?
No.
No, go right ahead.
Oh, I forget the source on this, but Nome, Alaska is supposed to have a question mark at the end, and it's supposed to say the word name. Because they didn't know what it was. They're like, what's the name of this place? Name? Question mark? And people were like, Nome. Nome, Alaska.
Okay.
Instead it's supposed to be name. Name?
Okay.
I live in name, I guess.
Subject hometown here.
Question mark?
And like and you can even you can sort of see the connection between some places, and I'm pretty sure that you know this town or this city quite well, but Benghazi.
Mm-hmm.
If you take it as one of the African languages again down here in the south, Benghazi is also another form of I don't know.
Ah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Hillary Clinton screwed up and I don't know.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that like, okay, first of all, I am frustrated by the cynicism of the current election more than anything. Like,
yeah,
because like Hillary Clinton is actually like kind of a boring do-gooder. Like, everyone loves to be like, oh my god, she secretly killed like 150 people. And I'm like, no, there's actually literally no proof that she's actually done anything like that. Oh, but it's much more interesting if she had, though. And
yeah, mostly because at least that makes her more interesting than she actually is.
Right, like she's actually like kind of a boring person. Like if you have watched interviews with her, she will go on ad nauseum about like policy details. She'll be like, "Oh my gosh," and then we're going to do this. And
can we at some point talk about her weird facial, like lizard personality that she apparently has?
Okay, so are we talking about how she supposedly has the conspiracy theory that she has seizures and brain damage, or
this does seem like it apparently, but like I don't think we should really get into it. But yeah, like face things that she does every now and again when somebody surprises.
So those are mostly people. Okay, you know how like when you pause a video and someone like someone is talking, and no matter where you pause it, they look bad because they're like in the middle of like some consonant or vowel, and that's typically what they mean. Like a lot of the videos that have been flying around the internet are like, oh, there was one where she she'd been asked questions by 3 reporters simultaneously, and she went, oh, whoa, 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 between them. And so the Fox News sphere, like, edited it in so it looked like she was, like, having some sort of weird attack. And really, it's the most boring thing. Like, she was just doing that thing where, like, your mom, like, all 3 of you run up to your mom and you ask her a question, and she's like, whoa, 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 what? Slow down. One at a time. But, yeah, like, as far as, like, Hillary Clinton looking like a lizard person, part of that is because we don't like, or, like, as a culture, like, as, like, a civilization, we don't really know what old people who like old ladies who tell us what to do are supposed to look like. Like, that's just never something that's occurred in, like, Western civilization.
Why were they just
like,
never
especially
alive?
in, huh?
What?
Well, no, just because, like, we didn't have women in positions of significant power very often, and we, for example, have never had a U.S. president who's a woman, and so, like, that's part of what freaks people out too, even if they don't really think about it. They just don't know, because, like, that's why they talk about, oh my God, her voice is very shrill. I'm like, well, that's what happens when you're a lady trying to talk loud. Like, you don't sound like a dude.
For obvious reasons.
But, yeah. But, unless you're Caster Semenya.
Yeah, well, let's not open up that bag of controversy. She won,
cookies.
She won, we're proud of her. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, it's just everybody else is just freaking butthurt about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Caster Semenya. Like, she beat your 800-meter specialists, like, 6-love.
Oh, yeah.
And then everybody else is butthurt about it. It's like, oh no, I came 6th, but, you know, I gave up, like, halfway because it was Caster Semenya.
Oh, Lord. I know, I always think that's, first of all, I like the Olympics. I like people occasionally, every year that we have the Olympics, someone complains about how they're a waste of money, and they're, you know, oh, well, it's the same countries that win the same events over and over, so what's the point? I'm like, no, the point is that all these countries are getting together and doing a thing, and all the world is watching, and it's, you know, it's an important humanizing thing for everybody.
Yeah.
Even if you don't care about the 100-meter sprint, like, even if you don't care about curling, you know, it doesn't matter. Like,
how did curling become an international sport? And who else actually is in there except for Canada?
well, Scotland invented it.
Don't scoff at the Scottish.
Yeah, when you don't, and you can't tell the Scottish that they can't have something.
No, fair.
Like, you see,
Commonwealth countries. So South Africa does.
They like
South Africa has a curling team, guys. Okay, it's fine.
Like the like, I don't know if you've seen, but, like, groundskeeper Willie on The Simpsons is actually, like, wildly popular in Scotland.
Really?
Right. You'd think that they would be offended.
But such a
no.
blatant caricature.
Right, but no, like, since it's very rare for the Scottish to even be on TV, like, they just like him. Like, they think he's funny, because that's not even, like, that's so far removed from how the Scottish see themselves in a lot of ways that they're just like, oh, okay. But then like, but then the things that he says will make them think, oh, but that's, you know, that is kind of how we are. Like, oh, what was it, like, brothers and sisters are natural enemies, like Englishmen and Scots, or Irish and Scotch, or you know,
Welsh and Scotch,
Canadians and Welsh and Scots, or what? And then he went even further afield. Right, it was something crazy like that. It was like, oh, they're not, you know, like the Portuguese and Scots, and then or you know, Scots and other Scots, and then like Principal Skinner is like, well, you know, you sure are contentious people, and he's like, you just made an enemy for life. And so, yeah, anyway. But, like, things like that, like, when I talk to actual Scottish people, they're like, oh, yeah, we actually like Groundskeeper Willie. That's not just a thing The Simpsons made up for, like, these various, like, documentaries about The Simpsons, like to talk about how when other parts of the world get made fun of, like, when Brazil got made fun of by The Simpsons, they didn't like it. You know, when like, The Simpsons went to, like, Africa and went to a made-up country that had its name changed during the flight, because of a coup, people got offended in Africa. But Groundskeeper Willie has been on the show for like 30 years, and the Scottish like actively argue about where he is from in Scotland.
Nice.
That's cool.
But there was an amazing interview, obviously on the Olympics, with two Scots guys who I think they got silver medals. But while they were being interviewed, you could definitely see that the two of them were drunk. Heavy drunk. I think it was rowing. Like the two of them were just standing there going like, oh,
Oh, that's just the accent. You can't understand them.
no. They were literally like having trouble standing.
Like swinging.
That's also the accent.
They're just gonna chalk up everything to the accent.
Right, just chipping over. Right, yeah, that's
So,
how it...
I do have an interesting question. Sort of like if we can bring all of these
Finally!
cultural perspectives that we've been talking about and scratch. These are very, very interesting cultural perspectives because these are all people that we could probably base, animal personalities off of.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Scottish would not necessarily be a Scottish Terrier. I would probably, I don't know, walrus? Why walrus?
I don't know.
Why walrus?
You
Mustache.
picked walrus.
Okay, there's the Russians. No.
So anyway,
Thanks. Okay, great.
Another thing that that I work on in my stories is like where characters are from, like what their nationality would be, in like what their background would be ancestrally when they're in my stories, based on like what species. And a lot of the times I just kind of like let it be. However, like I mean, I find it not very compelling when all of the Americans are rabbits and all of the Germans are mice and all of the whatever. Like I find that not very compelling because it doesn't actually reflect how societies intermingle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tend to write it as like wherever your species or breed or whatever was native to as an animal, that is your background. So like in Windfall, Max is a Siberian Husky, and so therefore his ancestors are Siberian natives. Like, and they have this like, weird, dark sense of humor, like in his family, and they have like he's sufficiently assimilated that he has like a more or less like, northern, central, attitude, American attitude toward things. But like when we see in like some of the other stories that I've written, his like mother and grandmother and whatever are like very much like have that weird like, you will never, when you are dying upon the ice, you will never say, I had too many belly rubs, kind of attitude. Like, because that's, like when you live in Siberia, that's just kind of like the attitude you have toward life. Like, you're like, like we're all gonna die, like possibly pretty soon, right?
Might as well do something nice.
Kinkenzade mentions that he thinks that if it's done like that, it borders on racism.
Yeah, I also don't like it when it's like that. Like, there have been some comics, even within the furry fandom, where, like, black people are always hyenas. Or, like, and, like, mice are always Jews, and, like, all these other things, and I'm like, whoa, why are we doing it like that?
Or
like, why?
Or crows. I mean, they used to be depicted as crows and stuff like.
Or in
but
Fritz
that was
the Cat.
Yeah.
It's the cat.
Yeah, Fritz the Cat.
And so, and like, I always think that that's, unless you are trying to tell some sort of like very specific allegory, like if you want to like have a political comic that you're putting in a newspaper, and you need to explain instantly this, idea of, oh, they're very, these are two different sides, and their predator-prey relationship reflects how we're treating this group or something. Sure, okay, do that. but in pretty much any other context, it is problematic at best. Like in the comics, I'm thinking of, it's like, like why is this character a hyena? Like, what does that say about how we're supposed to perceive them? Okay, now why are all of your Africans hyenas?
Yeah.
Like, speaking of like homogenizing an entire continent.
Well, I think that
because like all parts of Africa are pretty much the same.
Yeah. But I mean that also speaks towards, there was this, I mean, like even then, I think I have an idea of which comic you're talking about, because I remember all the people who were of Muslim descent were all, camels.
That was that, and that happened in what was that? Cat Shit 1.
Better Days?
Oh yeah, that happened there too. Yeah, yeah. I was talking about Better Days and Jay Naylor stuff, but like in Cat Shit 1, they're all the Americans are bunnies because it's a pun. Because Usagi is bunny in Japanese, and US GI.
Yeah.
GI is like General Infantryman USA, and so yeah, that's why it's a pun. But I don't. But in that one, the Japanese guy who made it just made all the Middle Easterners camels because it's super racist. Just super racist. Like there's no reason to have all of them be camels. That's not even broken up by country.
Yeah.
It's easier to render. What the?
Yeah, I mean. What was the other comic? Like, you mentioned like if there's a specific allegory you want to make, something like Mouse.
Yeah, like if it's an allegory, I understand the desire to do it. Like then it works. But like otherwise, you're just basically like saying like these two groups of people aren't really the same creature. Like you're implying that there's something else. Whereas like when I write it, like all of the different dogs and cats and otters and squirrels and giraffes are more or less equal because there are so many of them that there really isn't like a dominant ethnic group. And so there's a little bit of that Zootopia vibe of like the predators used to be in charge because they're covered in pointy things. But like, yeah.
But that was always the part that kind of annoyed me, and especially in Redwall, like all the herbivores were the good guys, and anything that had teeth sharper than omnivorous were bad.
Although a recent study here in North Dakota, we caught on video deer eating birds.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, like our local white-tailed deer eat birds.
Hardcore.
So yeah, it's pretty hardcore. Like they're actually like this actually led to a bunch of speculation about the line between herbivore and carnivore may not be as sharp as we think, because like what happened was they threw up these like very fine nets to catch birds so they could study the birds, and they had cameras on them so that they would know when birds were in there, so these researchers can go out, oh, net number 16 has a bird in it, go out and get it, and the deer ate the birds.
Wow.
And they speculated this was because the deer were not like getting enough like calcium or whatever, and that the deer just have some little bit of instinct that says, if you are hungry for this thing and you see this other bird and you see a bird that you can eat the bird.
Shit, man.
Disrespect your surroundings.
Yes. And then they yelled at mailboxes and traffic cones and refrigerators. Have you guys seen that video?
Don't think I have.
A video about
disrespect your surroundings?
No.
Yeah.
I have not seen it.
I love disrespect. Anytime they play that, I'm just like, this is gonna be amazing. Whatever it is.
We're gonna have to put it in the stream here. 1 second, let me find it.
Yeah. There's obviously that other pic. There's that one like thing of the deer literally going through the bus, through a bus window, still alive, completely still alive, and now just slightly dazed.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
Okay, put it in the stream. It's important.
Okay.
It has rude gestures.
Oh no.
Heaven forbid. Anyone following
us,
the
us
whole?
being.
Sorry, go ahead, Ivik.
Huh?
Go
No,
ahead.
go right ahead, Scott.
I'm wondering if anyone's following this whole like YouTube shitstorm that's recently popped up.
Oh,
People
yeah,
being
but I mean,
demonetized
yeah.
or whatever.
Oh yeah, where they basically are saying like you can't
Offended.
if you offend enough people or you offend people at YouTube with your video, they can take you off monetization. Isn't that it?
Something like that, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
like their main ad companies are just saying, no, it has a penis in it, and don't want to. Kind of.
Well, and I mean, I can understand it a bit. Like, imagine a video that would actually offend you.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Well,
imagine
and that,
your product being seen with that. You know, imagine if you had like your podcast was being advertised, and it was like a Donald Trump video that they put it on, or the reverse. Like, imagine if a Donald Trump video was being advertised right before your podcast. And so, I mean, I understand the motivations behind it, and it's not exactly censorship. Like, that's one thing that I run into a fair bit online is that people accuse they accuse websites of censoring them. And I'm like, well, I understand, but like that's someone else's website, and you're really kind of just borrowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, so I understand, and I'm totally in favor of like free speech, but I've had conversations with furry artists who are like scared to ban people who are trolling in their comments because they don't want to censor them.
Ugh.
And I'm like, well, no, you should totally censor people who are trolling. Like, you should totally ban people who are trolling. It's not censorship. That's just kicking them out if they're being a jerk.
Yeah.
You're not, you know, they could go make noise somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I mean, in that same sense, like, I mean, if I know that the example that was given by one of our furries from our side, he was mentioning that it's that entire idea of like you said, if enough people get offended by your video, then it can't be monetized, and that's just it. Like, I mean, so mostly because the internet for some reason just finds furries offensive to begin with. That means that every single monetized furry video is just going to be like off like that, even if
I
it's
think
telephone, or even if it's cute, or even if it's anything.
I think that is just people trolling. I think that
Yeah.
very few people are actually offended by furries. Like in the real world, when I'm out in dealing with people, almost no one who doesn't go on 4chan or on Something Awful or on Reddit knows what a furry is.
God, Reddit.
Right. Like, so, I mean, I understand, but I just don't think that furries. I think furries. First of all, we are kind of inherently a little bit silly. Like, we're inherently a little bit funny because we're talking animal people, and I think that draws attention. And then I think that we also, when people do troll us, and it's not fair that people troll furries. Like, that's stupid. They should have better things to do.
Yeah,
but then when furries react with just complete outrage and drama instead of just ignoring it, which I have to admit, furries, we do tend to flip out about things.
Oh yeah.
Like, and so I think that that's why. I think that that's what, like, yes, it's unfair that people are trolling you. You should also just ban them. Like, you shouldn't even, don't feed the trolls. Like, that's what they want. They want you to pay attention. You know, they want to be a big deal.
There's no point in like engaging in reasonable discourse with them because that's not their objective.
Sorry, reasonable discourse?
Yeah.
If you would like a very American way of putting that, I'm trying to remember how the saying goes. If you get in the mud to wrestle a pig, or no, if you are wrestling a pig, that means you're in the mud too, and eventually you realize the pig likes it.
Yeah.
And that's basically like how people talked about trolling in like my grandparents' day.
Yeah. The saying I know is if you like what's it? Like if you argue with if you argue with someone like that, they'll drag you down to their level and then beat you with experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And like they don't even care. Like sometimes it's just to degrade the level of one of my most
discourse.
one of my largest pet peeves is the phrase like both sides are equally bad. Because it's very rarely true. Like yeah, sure, like maybe at a sporting event where the two crowds are hooting at each other, yeah, they're equally bad. But like in the context of like I don't know, people being upset that, we had like a football player who didn't stand up for the national anthem, and people got upset. And they're like, oh, see, that's just as bad as anything Donald Trump is saying. I'm like, is it though? Is that the same thing? Or are you just like a human being and therefore desire things to be a binary? And so, like, one thing that I find really frustrating is like when a person trolls you and you engage them, even if it's just to correct them, then people go, oh well, see, they're just arguing, like they're both in it, like they're the same, and like so then they stake out some weird position in the middle between, Hillary Clinton is a lizard person and Hillary Clinton is not a lizard person, and they're like, well, Hillary Clinton might be a lizard person. I'm just being moderate. Like, like the truth is always somewhere in between.
You mean like CNN?
Right.
Here's 50 people who say yes. Here's one person who says no. So, we can't really make a decision based on that.
I know. And like I find it frustrating because like CNN has some good journalists at it, and if only they would not come in and be like, oh, what, who knows, all the time, and like just discredit themselves that way.
Yeah,
They would be a valid news agency.
Yeah, pick a damn side.
And they're not the only. Right, and like there have been internal reviews at the BBC and NPR in the last 5 years that have done similar things where they worried, like they decided that they were being too even-handed, even when one side of the debate was absolutely bonkers. Like, oh well, now this guy says we shouldn't eat your face, but this guy says we should. So who knows? No judgments here. And so,
because obviously journalism is being like completely objective about absolutely everything.
Well, and journalistic objectivity is a noble goal. Like, it's good to report the things that are actually going on, but as a journalist, you have to keep in mind what you're reporting. Are you reporting that there is a disagreement, or are you reporting that things are occurring? Because as a journalist, you should be reporting what is going on, not how do people feel.
Yeah.
Like that's always going to be secondary. Like, I don't care how people feel about this tornado. I would like to know where it is.
Yeah.
Should I go into my basement?
Well, I have a basement when it's done.
Yeah. So, anyway, but yeah, so back to, but like, and this is kind of like wrapped up with like political correctness.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, oh my God, well, don't be politically correct. Like, I'm not politically correct. And really what they're saying is, like, I want to say whatever the hell I want, and your feelings are not worth addressing. Because really, politically correct generally just means not being an asshole. And people like to be assholes. And people think it's funny when you're an asshole. Like, you could skip to any YouTube channel and find someone being an asshole because it's funny. Like, I admit I watch people who are assholes, like Yahtzee on, like Escapist who reviews
Zero
video
punctuation.
games. Zero punctuation. He's an asshole. Like, he's just like, oh, I'm going to make fun of this, and I'm going to say some snarky little thing about this game and whatever. And then, like, and he's even had videos where he's like, oh, I actually quite like this game. And everyone hates it, and everyone gets mad, and everyone trolls him.
Yeah.
And so he won't do it anymore. Like, when Portal came out, he loved it. He was like, oh my God, Portal is just amazing. Portal's a great game.
I cannot find anything wrong with this game.
Yeah, they're a fantastic game. And people were just irate in his comments because, oh my God.
He was being too nice.
Right, how dare you not give me my, 10 minutes of vitriol about how bad Portal is. and like the people like it because it's funny. Like it is funny. And like I watched the Portal episode and it wasn't as funny because he doesn't really know how to be funny without being a jerk.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. But yeah, like and Twitter's the same way. Like people are like, well, I'm not gonna be politically correct. I'm gonna say off-color jokes about people of different ethnicities and whatever. And but if you say that, then I'm being a jerk. Then you're just a social justice warrior. Then you're just being politically correct. Oh,
Yeah.
like that's really just a way. So political correctness doesn't actually exist as like. I mean, yes, in theory, you could be so sensitive that you're completely off base. Like but Tumblr gets a lot of flack for being that way. But like in real life, if you find yourself saying, I don't want to talk, I don't want to change my behavior because you're upset, you should probably take a little moment to be like, well, if our situations were reversed, would I be upset? Like if I were some oppressed group and I was being made fun of, would I be upset about this?
It all just boils down to a little bit of empathy. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Just a little bit of empathy.
Like the Trump campaign was really confused as to why people were upset when they tweeted a picture of Hillary Clinton in blackface, like a cartoon of her.
Wow.
And they were like, why is it offensive? And they're like, we have a black guy on staff, and he thought it was funny. And like they just didn't get it. And I'm like, you guys, think about and they basically were like, well, it's just political correctness. It's just social justice warriors trying to take us down. And I'm like, no, like that was actually like an offensive thing you did, and now you don't want to talk about it. And so you're saying it's politically correct, or you're being ironic. It's like when people it's the same defense mechanism psychologically we have when people are like, oh my god, I love DBZ. Ironically, I love it because it's bad. I'm like, no, you actually just like it, don't you? Like, it's okay to like things.
Just claim it.
Right, just say you like it. Like, whatever. What's another thing that people? What's a furry thing that's really bad that people like anyway?
Fritz the cat.
Yeah.
Dragons.
Like, so what? Dragons? Bad dragon? What?
Dragons.
Dragons? Just dragons in general?
Sorry.
But like, what's a furry thing that people like ironic? I've seen people like Paw Patrol ironically. Do you guys know what Paw Patrol is?
Paw Patrol looks so cute though.
It is
people
cute.
like
all right, and I'm like, if you like it, just like it. And they're like, I like it ironically. I'm like, no, it's a little bit like
taking a smoke from your vape
boring.
and your like wool knitting hat, your mom knitted wool hat, while sitting down in a freaking coffee shop reading a book that never will be published.
Anyway, talking about books.
Mother Pony.
My stuff. If you guys want to read any of it, if you want to pay money for it, it's on Amazon. And if you don't want to pay money, it is on Fur Affinity. The same things like the books aren't on Fur Affinity, but whatever. So, also, I would like to say that I find the furry fandom really liberating because I can write a serious, horror suspense novel, and then I can take a break by writing a whole bunch of Jack and Daxter porn. And people are just fine with that. Like, they're like, oh, of course you do. Oh, yeah. So, you can find that in my gallery right there. But, yeah, like, I find it really liberating that, like, the furry fandom is just like, write what you want, do what you want to do. It's all good.
Yeah. No one gives a frog's fat ass. As long as you're happy and it keeps people happy.
Yeah, and people like it, and so whatever. But, like, I run into people who are like, oh, well, I write fan fiction, so therefore I am not a real author. I am barred from doing real author things like writing books or whatever. No, you can be a fan fiction author and write original work too. It doesn't matter. Like, I view fan fiction as like a good setting to practice those skills and especially to practice them one at a time or a few
Yeah.
at a time, because like anybody who's like tried to write a story for the first time or like has noticed that there are so many things to try to keep track of. Like, how do I characterize these characters properly? Like, how do I show who they are? Okay, well, how do I do dialogue properly? How do I get the technical stuff right of like spelling and punctuation? How do I make sure the narrative works? How do I make sure the setting works? If it's a
How do I
fan
make
fiction,
sure that they don't seem like plastic characters?
yeah, but whereas if it's a fan fiction, you don't have to make up a setting. You don't have to make up characters. You may not even have to make up much of a story. Like if all the stories are the same, you know, that or have a like formulaic way they work. You know, like Star Trek fan fiction. You know, oh well, today we went to a planet that had this. There's sexy cat people. Oh, okay. And what is and then they just deal with that. And so it in that scenario where you're writing about like, you're writing your Kirk Emrest ship, where the sexy cat people, and so you're only working on how a story is set up, maybe some technical stuff, but you don't have to worry about like your setting or characters, like who the characters are and getting people to sympathize with them, because we already know who those characters are.
Yeah.
And so you can isolate a few things to actually work on. And it can also, fanfiction can also like help you work in genres that you aren't otherwise comfortable working in. Like if you, like most people, don't actually read Westerns, I write Westerns, and yet you've seen Firefly, you can write Firefly fanfiction and understand and like familiarize yourself with how a Western works, because that's what like the show is a Western in a way. And so, I find it useful, and so don't be ashamed, people out there who write fan fiction or enjoy fan fiction, because it's it is important it is an important way that we have to learn how to write better and to just practice outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Established universes are always a good way to just jump, like you said, just jump in there, focus on one thing. Like all the legwork's done. You have a palette of colors to work with. Just start coloring in the lines.
Right. And so that's why I am like comfortable. For a long time I wasn't comfortable writing fan fiction, and so that's why I'm like, well, no, that's important. Like it serves an important purpose. So much like this picture of the dog I just sent.
Oh.
But yeah, that's actually a very good place to sort of end the podcast here, I think. And what?
Said it. We've said all the things that could be said on this podcast.
Yeah. No, I mean, we talked about politics, we talked about culture, we talked about linguistics, we talked about
racism.
The podcast is there's no South African podcast. We've solved all of the problems.
Yeah, just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah,
write some fan fiction.
It says
you're being a dick, or write some fan fiction.
It says it there in the Bible. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Oh wait, I wrote that part in there. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
It'd be a lot shorter if I wrote it. You just open it and it's like, just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Huh.
That's all you need. Just a little bit of empathy and just resist the
just
urge.
Be very poor.
Yeah.
To not be a dick.
Yeah, just resist the urge to be
yeah, like Slate has this notion. Slate is an artist who has been on our podcast, the podcast here previously, and he has this notion that like I have a few fan fiction series that people frantically want more of, and people are so enthusiastic about them relative to the level of enthusiasm that my other works generate sometimes, that he's like, those are going to outlive you. Like, 200 years from now, like they'll be like part of the canon of literature, like your Star Fox fan fiction. Like, yes, Timmy, why don't you read us a section from Chapter 4 of Tempo's Star Fox fan fiction? Yes, I always loved that section, where they were just yiffing all over the place.
Yeah, fair.
So, anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks again for coming short notice. We're really appreciative of that, and hopefully we'll get Potteroo on next week.
Oh, furries will come with any notice at all.
Thank you for
I mean,
that.
he's still not awake.
I'm their art.
Yeah. I'm worried now.
Why?
He's not read his messages for like the last 3 hours.
Oh, he's probably still alive. He's probably busy.
Yeah. Probably got caught up somewhere.
I wouldn't worry too much about him. Like,
yeah.
He's probably fine. So anyway, everybody, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. It has been delightful as always.
And yeah, of course.
I will. I'm sure that we will have more things to talk about in the future. I'm going to be working on some new book projects now. I have that kids book thing is at the publisher. I've been let's see. I've been working on that Heath story and a couple other things. I'm actually working on Star Fox fanfiction now.
Nice.
I should be working on real things. I'm working on Star Fox fanfiction. So, okay. But yeah, don't worry. There's plenty of YIF though. So it'll be okay.
Yay.
Okay. So.
Woo.
All right.
Does it involve that beak thing?
The beak thing? I don't. It's not. Falco is not shipped with anyone. Falco's not involved in any of the sex scenes.
Yet.
Okay.
Yet.
Yeah.
Tune in.
Wait until part 2.
And you can find if he has a beak condom on.
just for those awkward cuts.
The word of the day is beak condom.
Okay.
So.
Right. So we'd like to thank the people who've been listening to us. I know that Victor was on here for a couple of seconds. He popped in, popped out. Then Kinkin, Arashi, Dark Gears is new. Hello, Gears. Trace, Tox, Iggy Twiggy. I'm going to scroll up again. I'm probably going to say a whole bunch of names again. Or I'm not. We'll find out. Canada. Okay.
Like the part of the canine family tree.
No. Ne.
Kennedy.
Kennedy. I don't. You've something.
Kennedy.
A.
Kennedy.
Yeah, I think I've got everyone. On that side, there's actually a couple of people on the chat here. There's Cheetah Paw, Final 3 Cho. Bravura was listening for a couple of seconds. I'm obviously on here. I know that Mind was on this side on furry.fm. So yeah, I was just in the chat there. But yeah, so thanks again for joining us and listening. Hopefully Potteroo will be able to join us next week Sunday. If not, we'll make a plan.
Yep. We always do.
Yeah.
All right.
Somehow. All right, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone. Talk to you later,
guys. Oh wait, yeah. That's what I need to say. Just like obviously there will be music later on furry.fm side if you guys want to have a listen there. I'm going to be playing my usual sort of mixture of random music, sometimes a bit more metal.
And I'll make sure that I give you at least one song to play during it. And we should make that just a thing that you do after the podcast. Like whoever's the guest has to contribute a song.
Yay.
Okay, so long as you send it to me, and then
I'll find one for you.
Sweet.
Okay.
I'll make sure it's furry related.
Yay.
Okay, because I mean, like I tend to end off my sort of radio show with Dick Stonecrow on trees, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand it's serious business.
It's very serious business. Also, it's after 10.
Speaking of which, Tempo, just stay on for a few seconds afterwards. Like, yeah. Otherwise, everybody, just. We will see you guys on the other side.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It is.